We've talked a lot about this counteroffensive, which started a month or so ago. Is it progressing as it should be?
Well, good morning. It's good to talk to you. We're about 7 weeks into this counteroffensive, at least according to President Zelensky when it started. We are seeing progress. Clearly, some of the expectations among external observers and the media before this were blown totally out of control. This is a very, very difficult undertaking that the Ukrainians are engaged in. They're making progress, but it's slow, it's methodical, and it will take some time.
What do you think is lacking? Is it the hardware in terms of what Ukraine has? Is it the tactics being used by Russia?
Well, it's a bit of both. What we're seeing is the Russians have had about 7 months to develop this Surovikin line in the south of Ukraine with obstacles, with minefields, with strong points and Russian forces deployed in depth. That's hard to fight through at the best of times, but if you combine that with new sensors that are connected to artillery and can fire very quickly, it makes it a difficult proposition for the Ukrainians.
I mean, with so much being pledged by the West and so much international diplomacy going on around President Zelensky, you would have thought that Ukraine would have this military might. Are the West's weapons, the West's money that's gone into Ukraine, is it not paying dividends?
Well, it's absolutely paying dividends because it's helping the Ukrainians defend their territory against a regime that's trying to exterminate their country. So it's absolutely paying dividends. I think the real problem here is most observers don't understand the scale of this conflict. It is beyond the scale of any Western military's experience in their lifetimes. The consumption of ammunition and the lack of Western industry stepping up to increase capability is only making this problem worse. So this is a challenge of scale that we have not seen for a couple of generations and we're still coming to grips with.
Yeah, interesting. Cluster munitions, we talked about them a lot. It was very controversial when America said it would give them to Ukraine. We're told they have been used. Have they been used much?
The Russians have been using these since the beginning of the war. They used them in civilian areas in Kharkiv in the very first weeks of this war. So this isn't a new tool in this war. Really, it's the last large stocks of artillery ammunition left in the West. So it makes a lot of sense for the Ukrainians to use these. The Defence Minister Reznikov came out with very clear guidelines for their use a couple of weeks ago, and they should be able to use these on their own territory to take it back.
You mentioned briefly earlier the use of landmines. I want to just touch on that again, that the Russian forces have laid a lot of landmines, and actually landmines are now killing and injuring more Ukrainian soldiers than actual artillery. Some are being remote controlled, which is an interesting perspective. I mean, what sort of swathes of area are we talking about here?
Well, at the moment, I think the estimates are about 15 to 18% of Ukraine has some kind of remnants of war problem, whether it's unexploded ordnance, landmines and these kind of things. We haven't seen this density of landmines used since the Second World War. The problem is the state of the art in detecting and clearing landmines really hasn't moved on for about 4 decades. So, you know, if NATO was clever, it would have some crash program now to rapidly develop a fast detection and fast clearance capability. It's going to be needed now, but it's going to be needed when the war is over as well.
Yeah, which who knows when. I don't know if you've seen this. I'm reading some suggestions that Ukraine may not yet have committed its main strike force in this counteroffensive, but you do wonder what more they've got to give.
Well, I mean, the Ukrainians are the ones under the existential threat here, and as we've seen through this war, they've got a lot to give because they have everything to lose. So, you know, let's not rush to judgments on Ukrainian capability. They've surprised us throughout this war. I think they'll continue to do so.
We thank you very much for your knowledge and expertise, Mick Ryan. Thank you.
Thank you.